Lord Vark stood before the towering display screen in the Dominion's war chamber, his scaled fingers tapping impatiently against the metallic command console. The holographic image of Iron Vale rotated slowly before him, a lush, green and blue world that humans had colonized just 50 years ago. "They're mere laborers," he sneered, his voice dripping with disdain. "Simple soil tillers with barely any orbital defenses." He turned to address the gathered war council, his ceremonial armor gleaming under the cold artificial lights. "This will be the simplest conquest in Dominion history." Dr. Leese, a small, hunched figure in modest scientific robes, cleared her throat. "My lord, I must urge caution. Our research into human history suggests—" "Spare me your academic theories," Vark interrupted, his tail flicking dismissively. "I've reviewed the physical data. Humans are frail compared to every other spacefaring species. No natural armor, no claws, poor night vision, and laughable muscle mass." He gestured at the comparison charts displayed on the screen. "Even their reflexes are unremarkable." The War Council murmured in agreement, but Dr. Leese persisted. "Physical traits aren't everything, my lord. Humans have a remarkable—" "Enough!" Vark snapped, his annoyance growing. "I didn't call this meeting to discuss anthropology. We are here to plan a conquest, and I have already devised the perfect strategy." He pressed a button, and the display shifted to showcase the Dominion's prized war beasts, massive creatures from 100 worlds, each augmented with cybernetics and covered in reinforced battle armor. There were 6-legged predators from high-gravity planets, serpentine hunters from gas-giant moons, and aerial assassins capable of diving at supersonic speeds. "We'll deploy the war beasts during their harvest season," Vark explained, his eyes gleaming. "Their communities are isolated, focused on gathering crops, ideal hunting conditions." The display zoomed in on the agricultural regions of Iron Vale. "The beasts will devastate their farmlands, and their primitive militias won't know how to respond." General Kaur, a veteran of multiple campaigns, raised a clawed hand. "Why not simply bombard them from orbit, my lord?" Vark smirked, showing rows of razor-sharp teeth. "Because we need this world intact. Iron Vale is perfect for colonization, rich soil, breathable air, and fully developed infrastructure. Why destroy what we can simply claim?" His grin widened. "Besides, this method will minimize casualties among our own forces. The war beasts are expendable." The council members nodded in approval. A ruthless but effective plan. Use biological weapons to preserve infrastructure while terrorizing the human population into submission. Dr. Leese made one final attempt. "At least let me show you the data on human hunting patterns. Throughout their history, they've—" "Dismissed," Vark said coldly. "Save your concerns for your research papers." As the council members filed out, Vark lingered, studying the colony's agricultural maps. His gaze fixed on one region in particular, Windmere Valley, where most of the grain was grown. "We'll start here," he muttered to himself. "Deploy the largest predators first. These farmers won't stand a chance." Meanwhile, in her office, Dr. Leese pulled up her research files on human history. Images flashed across her screen, ancient cave paintings depicting humans hunting mammoths, historical records of species driven to extinction by human hands, and studies detailing their evolution as persistence hunters. She typed rapidly, preparing one last report. "They're making a terrible mistake," she whispered. "These simple farmers are the descendants of Earth's most efficient predators." But she knew Vark wouldn't read her report. Like so many others, he saw only what he wanted to see: a primitive colony, ripe for conquest. The war beasts were being loaded into their drop pods. The invasion of Iron Vale was about to begin. The Dominion was about to learn why underestimating humans was a fatal error. The morning sun cast long shadows over Windmere Valley as Garrett Holt guided his massive harvester through the golden wheat fields. The machine rumbled beneath his hands, but he maneuvered it with the skill of a man who had spent 20 years farming on Ironvale. Through the harvester's wide front window, he spotted his grandson, Eli, racing alongside the machine, laughing as he pretended to outrun it. Then, the sky darkened. At first, Garrett thought they were meteors, streaks of fire cutting through the morning clouds, but meteors didn't slow down before impact, and meteors didn't roar when they struck the earth. "Eli!" Garrett bellowed through the harvester's speakers. "Get back to the house, now!" The boy ran as the first pod slammed into the wheat field half a mile away, the impact sending waves rippling through the golden crop. Garrett grabbed his radio, already hearing the panic in the emergency channels. "Unidentified objects dropping across Windmere Valley," a voice crackled. "All farmers, return to safety zones immediately." Garrett turned his harvester around, but it was too late. Something massive erupted from the wreckage of the fallen pod, sending twisted metal and dirt flying in all directions. Through the settling dust, he saw a nightmare. 12 feet of muscle, armor, and fangs, moving on 6 legs with terrifying speed. But Garrett Holt hadn't survived 30 years on the frontier by panicking. He reached beneath his seat for his emergency rifle, and did something the Dominion had never anticipated. He charged. The beast had been engineered to hunt prey that fled. It wasn't prepared for a human to drive a 30-ton farming machine straight at it. "Chew on this, you ugly bastard," Garrett roared as he rammed the harvester into the creature. The impact sent the beast tumbling, its armor cracked, exposing vulnerable flesh beneath. Across Windmere Valley, similar battles played out. Hannah Carter, whose family had hunted across 3 worlds, took down an aerial beast with a single precise rifle shot. Its cybernetics were advanced, but its brain was still in the same place as any flying predator. At the Jensen homestead, 3 generations of farmers turned their irrigation systems into makeshift weapons, trapping a serpentine creature in the mud before crushing it under an old reinforced tractor. On his front porch, Noah Graves watched the chaos unfold and noticed something others didn't. "They're following hunting patterns," he told his wife, Miriam, as she loaded their shotguns. "Just like the wolves back on Earth." The emergency channels were no longer filled with panic, but with strategy. Farmers, hunters, and mechanics shared knowledge, adapting within hours. They don't like the sound of the harvesters. Their armor is weakest at the joints. They avoid water, use the irrigation systems. In the colony's emergency control center, Governor Hale listened with growing pride. The aliens had expected fear and chaos. Instead, they got organized resistance. Back in orbit, Lord Vark read the first battle reports in disbelief. The war beast's casualty rate was staggering. These simple farmers were fighting back, using primitive but devastating tactics, turning their agricultural tools into weapons. "Impossible," Vark growled, watching another beast fall to what appeared to be a reinforced harvester turned battering ram. "They're just farmers." Dr. Leese, standing quietly in the corner, finally spoke. "No, my lord," she said. "They're humans." And the Dominion was about to learn why humans were the deadliest predators in the galaxy. And modified vehicles. Hunters with high-powered rifles targeted the weak points Miriam Holt had identified. In the colony's command center, Governor Hale received regular updates. 6 beasts down in the last 12 hours, her aide reported. "The hunting parties are getting better at this." "Of course they are." Hale smiled. "We're not just fighting back, we're learning. That's what humans do best." Up in orbit, Lord Vark watched with mounting frustration as more war beasts fell. The creature's built-in cameras relayed everything, and what he saw disturbed him. The humans weren't running from his beasts. They were hunting them down. "My lord," a junior officer stammered, "we're getting strange readings from the beast's cybernetic systems. The humans aren't just killing them. They're studying them, learning how they work." Dr. Lees, who had been quietly observing, finally spoke. "Did you know, my lord," she said calmly, "that before humans built spaceships, they hunted animals larger than themselves to extinction on nearly every continent of their homeworld? Not with advanced weapons, but with simple tools and an understanding of animal behavior." She gestured to the screen, where humans were setting up another ambush. "Those aren't just farmers and colonists down there," she continued. "They're the descendants of Earth's greatest hunters, and you just gave them new prey. The war beasts were learning a harsh lesson. On any world humans inhabited, they never remained prey for long." The ground shook as more drop pods pierced the twilight sky over Windmere Valley. Lord Vark had doubled down on his strategy, deploying his largest and most aggressive war beasts. But this time, the humans were ready. "They never learn, do they?" Noah Graves muttered, lowering his binoculars. He keyed his radio, now linked to a network spanning every farm and homestead in the valley. "Heads up, everyone. We've got new guests coming to dinner." The response was immediate. No panic, no chaos, just the calm, precise coordination of people who had prepared for this moment. "North Sector, ready." The gruff voice of Garrett Holt came through the radio. His harvester, now practically a tank with reinforced armor and mounted weapons, sat hidden in a camouflaged barn. "South Sector in position," reported Hannah Carter, perched high in an old tree, her hunting platform giving her a perfect line of sight to the battlefield. The first pod slammed into a wheat field. Its doors blew open, and a colossal war beast emerged, larger than the others, armored in thick plates, its cybernetic implants glowing ominously. Mounted energy weapons hummed to life on its shoulders. It roared, expecting to terrify its prey. Instead, it triggered a trap. Hidden speakers around the field blasted a precisely tuned frequency, a weakness Miriam Holt had discovered while studying captured beasts. The sound had no effect on humans, but for the war beasts' cybernetic systems, it was chaos. "Their own tech is their weakness," Miriam explained over the radio as the creature staggered, its targeting systems scrambled. "Natural animals adapt. These things, they can't change their programming." The moment the beast faltered, the humans struck. Harvester machines lurched from hidden positions, their normal crop-cutting blades replaced with reinforced rams. They didn't need to kill the beast, just hold it in place. "Like handling a mad bull," Garrett Holt shouted over the comms, ramming his armored harvester into the beast's flank. "Except this bull's got a computer for a brain." From her tree stand, Hannah Carter took careful aim. Her rifle, now modified with armor-piercing rounds, locked onto a vent in the beast's shoulder. "Targeting left shoulder vent," she reported calmly, "just like taking down a charging bear." She fired. The shot pierced the beast's armor. More rounds followed in a coordinated volley, hitting precisely where the war beast's breathing systems were exposed. The massive creature collapsed. Similar battles raged across the valley. The humans' farmlands had become a giant trap. Irrigation systems flooded key areas, turning fields into bogs that snared the beast's legs. Drones, originally used for crop spraying, now dropped nets and smoke bombs. In the colony's command center, Governor Hale watched the tactical display, smiling. "Send this data to all other settlements," she ordered. "Every farm, every village, show them how to win." Up in orbit, Lord Vark's command staff watched in horror. The war beasts weren't just being defeated. The humans had developed systematic methods to counter every type of creature. "My lord," a junior officer reported, "they're adapting faster than we can deploy new variants." His voice was shaken. "Every beast we send down, they learn more about how to kill the next one." Dr. Lyce observed quietly, then spoke. "Humans have a saying, my lord." She folded her hands. "The more things change, the more they stay the same." She gestured to the tactical display. Another war beast fell. "This is what they do," she continued. 10,000 years ago, they shared hunting strategies around campfires. Now, they share them through radios and data networks. But the principle is the same. They learn, they adapt, they survive. As if to emphasize her point, yet another war beast was felled by a carefully orchestrated ambush. The humans weren't just surviving the invasion, they were winning, and they were teaching each other how to do it better with every passing hour. Lord Vark stormed into the research lab aboard his command ship, his tail thrashing in fury. Screens displayed failure after failure, more dead war beasts, more humans hunting them down. "How?" he roared. "How are these simple farmers defeating my perfect weapons?" Dr. Lyse looked up from her workstation, surrounded by historical records and biological data. "I tried to tell you before the invasion, my lord," she said quietly. She pressed a button. The main display flickered to life, showing ancient cave paintings of humans hunting mammoths, fossil records of extinct predators. She gestured to the images. "This," she said, "is what I tried to warn you about." Dr. Lyse brought up current battle footage. "Look at them. They study your beasts. They find weaknesses. They work together. That's how they hunted their world's largest predators to extinction. Not with strength, not with speed, but with intelligence, cooperation, and persistence." Lord Vark's eyes narrowed as he took in the data. The colonists of Ironvale weren't just surviving against his war beasts, they were outsmarting them, and they were turning the tide. A junior officer entered. "Governor Hale has sent us a message, my lord." He hesitated. "She says she's willing to accept our surrender." Lord Vark's scales darkened with fury. "Surrender?" he spat. Dr. Lyse simply smiled. "To hunters," she corrected. "The greatest hunters in known space." And down on Ironvale, another war beast fell. The Dominion was learning a lesson that Earth's ancient predators had learned long ago. Never underestimate humanity's ability to hunt. But we can show them a better way. Word spread quickly through the colony. More war beasts were now being captured alive, carefully tranquilized, and freed from their control systems. Miriam Holt and her team worked tirelessly, developing a new, gentler interface, one that worked with the creature's natural instincts rather than suppressing them. High in orbit, Lord Vark received the most disturbing report yet. "My lord," his tactical officer said, voice trembling, "the humans, they're not just defeating our beasts anymore, they're taming them." The tactical display told the story. Freed war beasts now fought alongside the humans. Their natural pack-hunting instincts, once dulled by Dominion control, made them far more effective than they had ever been as mere weapons. In Windmere Valley, Noah Graves led a hunting party that included 3 former war beasts. The creatures moved silently through the wheat fields, their enhanced senses tracking their still-controlled brethren. "Easy, big fella," Noah murmured, patting the flank of the largest beast. Its armor had been stripped of weapons, replaced with better protective plating. "Let's go find your friends." The hunting party moved like a well-oiled machine. The freed beasts located their targets. The humans moved in to disable the control systems. More often than not, the controlled beasts didn't even fight. They surrendered, recognizing their freed companions. "The Dominion made a mistake," Governor Hale said, watching the latest hunt unfold on her tactical display. "They thought these creatures were just weapons." She smiled. "But humans know better. We've spent our entire history working with animals, understanding them, forming partnerships. Back in orbit, Doctor." Lyse watched the live feed from the Dominion flagship. She couldn't help but smile. "First, they learned to hunt the beasts," she murmured to herself. "Then they learned to understand them." She gestured toward the screen, where humans and freed war beasts worked side by side. "And now," she said softly, "they've done what humans always do. They've turned their former enemies into allies." Lord Vark stood before the Dominion High Council, his scales pale with shame. On the massive display behind him, footage from the failed invasion of Ironvale played. The council members watched in stunned silence. They saw war beasts being hunted down by farmers. They saw captured creatures turned against their masters. And finally, they saw the humiliating retreat of the Dominion's forces. "Let me understand this clearly," the High Chancellor said, her voice cold. "You lost our entire war beast program to farmers?" "Not just farmers," Dr. Liss stepped forward, now officially summoned to testify. "Colonists, pioneers, the kind of humans who choose to settle new worlds." She gestured toward the screen. "In other words, the most adaptable and resourceful of an already resourceful species." News of the defeat spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On 1,000 worlds, beings gathered around screens, watching the footage. They saw humans in modified farming equipment taking down cyber-enhanced predators. They watched in amazement as colonists turned the feared war beasts into allies. Back on Ironvale, the celebration was in full swing. The town square of Windmere Valley had been transformed. Alongside parked harvesters and hunting vehicles stood reformed war beasts, their armor now painted with the colony's colors. Children rode on the backs of creatures that had once been sent to terrorize them. "Never thought I'd see something like this," Garrett Holt said, watching his grandson Eli feed treats to a 6-legged beast, a creature that now helped guard his wheat fields. "Turns out, they're pretty good at herding cattle, once you show them how." Noah Graves stood beside Governor Hale, overlooking the transformed valley. "The Dominion actually did us a favor," he said. "These beasts? They're better suited to farm work than fighting. Strong, smart, and now that they're free, surprisingly gentle." Miriam Holt was already busy teaching other colonies how to free and rehabilitate any remaining war beasts. Her veterinary protocols were being shared across human space, just in case the Dominion ever tried this strategy again. "The funny thing is," she told a group of visiting reporters, "these creatures were never meant to be weapons. The Dominion took beautiful, intelligent animals and tried to turn them into monsters. All we did was help them become themselves again." In the galaxy's diplomatic circles, the story became a cautionary tale. Videos of humans hunting war beasts with primitive weapons and modified farm equipment became popular viewing. Military analysts studied the footage, learning hard lessons about underestimating humanity. "The humans didn't just beat the war beasts," one alien general noted grimly. "They understood them, freed them, and then turned them into friends." He shook his head in disbelief. Who else would look at a cybernetic killing machine and think, "I bet that would be good at herding cattle"? Dr. Lice, now promoted to head of xenological studies, gave her final report to the Dominion Council. "The mistake," she explained, "wasn't just attacking humans." She paused. "The mistake was forgetting what made humans dominant on their homeworld. Not technology, not strength, but their ability to adapt, learn, and turn enemies into allies." She displayed one final image on the screen. A human child riding on the back of a war beast through a golden wheat field, both looking perfectly happy. "They've already started breeding programs," she added. "Within a few generations, these creatures will be as loyal to humans as Earth's dogs." She let that sink in. "That's what humans do. They don't just survive. They thrive. They don't just win. They change the game entirely." The story of Ironvale became legend, told and retold across the galaxy, how farmers and colonists had defeated the most feared weapons in known space, how humans had proven once again why they were the most successful predators in history, and, most importantly, how dropping war beasts on a human colony became known as the greatest military mistake in recent galactic history. In Windmere Valley, life went on. The wheat grew tall. The modified harvesters worked the fields, and the reformed war beasts helped guard the crops. Just another day on a human colony world, where the descendants of Earth's greatest hunters had once again proven why you should never, ever underestimate humanity's ability to adapt.